yes, it's me again. Welcome back. So, I know I said I was going to be more consistent, and I was wrong. It takes a lot of time to edit and film and find time to film because, your girl is a struggling actor, not a starving actor. So, I have to go work. So, I try to find times to film on my free time. That being said, I am going to try. Just bear with me. It's going to just take a minute. But today, we're going to talk about my new hyperfixation, House of the Dragon. Now, I know the hype is kind of gone because the second season has come and went, but I still think there's more to talk about. Because I've been getting really into what if YouTube videos about what would happen if this happened, or what would happen if Viserys didn't die, what would happen if Rhaenyra wasn't claimed heir and he made Aegon heir. And I was just thinking about it, and I was like, that's actually a pretty good video idea. I'm not gonna steal their ideas or anything like that because that's not my style. But I am going to be talking about today is how the Dance of the Dragons could have been prevented before it actually happened. Before the Civil War happened, what could have happened in order to stop this from happening, Because, honestly, if these people just sat down and had a decent conversation, the war would have never happened. I need to let you guys know, there is no book spoilers. I know what happens at the end of the story because I love spoiling myself. That's just who I am as a person. I've always been that way. And so I already know what happens at the end of the story. And a lot of people do, but I'm not going to spill that tea. So you guys can sit down and watch this video and don't have to worry about spoilers. Now, if you haven't seen the show at all, click off, because I don't have time for y'all saying, spoilers, you spoiled me. If you didn't watch the show, why are you watching this video? I'm just going to let you know. Spoilers up to season 2, even though I don't even think it's going to be getting that far. Okay. So, like I said, this video is going to be about what could have been done to prevent the Dance of the Dragons. Now, the first suggestion, Viserys should have never got remarried. If Viserys really wanted Rhaenyra to be his heir, he should have never got remarried. He should have never married Alicent and had children with her, even though he was still at the age where he could still have children and make a male heir, and that's what everybody expected him to. He was the king. He had absolute progeniture. Is that what they call it? Absolute progeniture, or just absolute power. No one could tell him what to do. He literally, anything he said will become law. So if he said, I'm not remarrying, then he wasn't going to remarry. No one could force him to remarry. So he shouldn't have gotten remarried. That would have secured Rhaenyra's claim to the Iron Throne. Now, there could have been a whole thing where Daemon could have tried to take over, but Otto really didn't want Daemon around like that. That's why Otto decided to let Rhaenyra become the heir in the first place, as a placeholder to keep Daemon from becoming king. But now, since Viserys is not going to be having any children, her line is secured. She is secured as heir, and that means that she probably wouldn't end up having children outside of her marriage. She probably wouldn't have gotten so wiggly, and then the Dance of the Dragons would have never happened because there's no other people to contest the throne. There's no one left to contest the throne outside of Daemon. And I don't know. Daemon might, but I don't think he would gather enough support in order to do so. I don't think he would gather enough support to become king. Second way that Viserys could have secured Rhaenyra's reign, or in general, Rhaenyra, he should have gotten Rhaenyra more involved. Let's say he had no choice. He had to get married, and he got married to Alicent, and they had a son. What they should have done was, if he really wanted to secure Rhaenyra's claim, he should have had her heavily involved. He should have given her a seat in the small court. In his head council. Is that what they call it? The head council? The small council. That's what it's called. The small council. He should have given her a seat in the small council. He should have helped her out. He should have told her what He taught her about the rules and the governing and the laws, but he never taught her about war. And that's what he should have taught too. He should have forced her to learn how to fight. Even though Rhaenyra, oh sorry, my nose is itchy. Even though Rhaenyra wasn't really interested like that, she needed to know these things. And she's a teenager. She don't know no better. So it was up to him to teach her. Yeah, this is like Viserys' fault at this point, because it's just like, even though Rhaenyra needs to claim some responsibility, because Aemond, there was a chance he was never going to become king, but for the tiny little sliver of hope that he had that he could become king, he learned how to fight, he learned how to speak High Valyrian, he learned how to govern, he made sure to be prepared to become king if he ever did, because he knew his brother was an idiot. And that's what Rhaenyra should have been doing. And even though Rhaenyra could have been a good queen in peacetime, Viserys should have known that her becoming queen was going to start a war. Like, it was going to start a war regardless. Like, it's just like, even if there was no heir to protest her, she probably would have faced civil war from all the other governing houses to be like, nah, we're not going to support a queen, we're going to succeed. And and then she would basically have to become Aegon the Conqueror and take over the land again. So, excuse me. So having her heavily involved in the politics, knowing how to handle herself during wartime. To be fair, Viserys didn't know how to handle himself during wartime, because Viserys was a king during peacetime, and his grandfather, he was the king, and he made peace. Like, his grandfather knew what it was like to be in war, but he made sure to put in place things that would make a peaceful life for the kingdom. And yeah, so another way we could have avoided the Dance of the Dragons is Rhaenys. Rhaenys should have been queen. They literally call her the queen that never was for a reason. People respected her. She had one of the biggest houses tied to her, House Velaryon. Like, she married the Sea Snake. And he is the richest house in Westeros. Like, they needed his support. And he's Valyrian. That family is Valyrian. So now they have more dragon riders. Like, Rhaenys was the best choice to be the ruler of the Seven Kingdoms. Like, people respected her. Like, she could command a room. Like, it was just like, literally, Rhaenyra did not have any problems controlling her small court until her small council, until after Rhaenys died. After Rhaenys died, none of them men were listening to her. None of them were respecting her. Even her own son wasn't listening to her. But to be fair, that's because Rhaenyra kept making dumb decisions. We're going to put a pin in that. But Rhaenys should have been queen. Rhaenys would have been able to avoid the entire war, because Jaehaerys, the wisest king that ever lived in Westeros, if he backed her and said, yes, you are going to be queen. Because again, he has absolute progeniture or absolute power. So anything he says goes. He makes the rules. And the Targaryens, they live at a different standard. Like, they don't have to follow the rules of Westeros. Because in Westeros, the rules is all male descendants of the heir goes first. Because her father was heir to the throne, he died. So all male descendants of the heir would be next in line. And then after that, it would be any daughters. And then after the daughters, then it would go to the brother. But Jaehaerys skipped over Rhaenys because she was a woman and gave it to his second son. And then, which caused a lot. Like, I mean, it's still messed up, but he's king. He can do whatever he wants. But if he stuck to Westeros tradition and let Rhaenys become queen, no one would have bat an eye. Well, I mean, of course people would have had issue. But, like, no one will have the guts to actually stand up against her, because again, she's married to one of the most powerful houses in Westeros. And the sea snake controlled the waters. Like, he had the biggest fleet, the biggest navy fleet. He had the most money, and he was Valyrian. So their children were dragon riders. their children. So she had at least 3 dragons already under her belt. And who's to say she wouldn't have any more? Because I'm pretty sure she would have tried to marry her children off to other dragon riders, which they did. Like, it's just like in the original timeline, they married Laenor to Rhaenyra, and they married, Daemon married, Laena. That's her name, Laena. So, and then their children would have been dragon riders. So, at the end of the day, she would have a lot of dragon riders, the support of the naval fleet, and the army of King's Landing. So, the Golden Company. So, she would have had enough power to secure her reign. So, that was another way. Another way they could have avoided the war, Rhaenyra should have not been a coward. She should have just stood her ground in King's Landing. She knew what she did. She knew she was stepping out of her marriage and she was having kids that did not look like her husband. And I understand, like, in the show, they have it where it's absolutely clarified. It is absolutely confirmed that they are not Laenor's children. But in the books, it was a little bit more murky because Rhaenys is half Baratheon. So she has dark hair. Like, the Baratheon genes are very, very strong. Like, anyone who intermixed with a Baratheon will always come out looking like a Baratheon. They would never look like the other house. So Rhaenys looked like a Baratheon. Well, she didn't have the traditional Targaryen silver hair. So when Rhaenyra's children were born, a lot of people just assumed that it was because of the Baratheon genes were so strong. That's why the boys had dark hair. So no one really, so like there were some people that they were just like, probably not because Laenor has light hair, but they did understand that sometimes genetics can skip a generation. So they're probably just like, sorry, I gotta check the time. Okay. So they probably just were like, you know what? It's probably just genetics, you know? They understood a little bit about genetics. And yeah. So that's why no one really questioned it in the books, but like they do in the show, but in the show it is completely clear that those kids are not Laenor's. And the thing is that Laenor couldn't really provide Rhaenyra an heir, so she had to find someone elsewhere, and she had to make sure she found someone who's willing to keep the secret and keep the anonymity, because if it, like, again, and also they will die if someone finds out. So that's why she picked someone that she knew had a lot at stake, just like she did. Yeah. But anyway, she couldn't find a blonde dude, like just a blonde dude. She couldn't find no blonde dude. Anyway, we're moving on. Rhaenyra should have stayed in King's Landing. When, like I said, she should have stayed in King's Landing and got more involved in court, like the way Alicent did. She should have been the one who became the hand of the king after Lionel Strong died. Like, she should have became the hand of the king. That way she would have been able to help make decisions about Westeros and then, you know, help everyone ease into the transition of her becoming queen. That way Alicent couldn't dig her claws into the kingdom and start poisoning their mind against Rhaenyra. And that way Rhaenyra could keep everything but then again, Viserys was kind of a weak man, and his wife she did have a lot more power over him than people give her credit for. Like, Alicent had a lot of power over Viserys. So I don't know how well that would have gone, but Rhaenyra should have fight for her claim harder. And since she didn't, that caused a lot of issues for her later on. Just saying. Another way, honestly, what I talked about earlier, Rhaenyra should have, I'm jumping back to Rhaenyra when she was younger. Rhaenyra should have just bit the bullet and find someone to marry when they gave her the opportunity to just pick whoever she wanted. Like, her dad gave her whoever she wanted. And of course she was going through the mindset where she was like, oh, I'm not going to become heir. But even afterwards, when she found out that her line was secured and that she was going to be the next queen of Westeros, she still screwed around and just said, I don't want to get married. And that made Viserys so mad that he was just like, I'm picking for you. You're marrying your cousin. So all she had to do was just chill out. She could have married Harwin Strong. She could have married Harwin Strong and then have the House of Harrenhal. Like, apparently in the story, Harrenhal is a very important place. Like, it is in charge of the Riverlands. Like, that house is in charge of the Riverlands and all that stuff. Or maybe it isn't. I'm not sure. Like, I know that there was... I don't think so. I think it was that little boy. His house is in charge of the Riverlands. I'm a casual fan. I'm not like a diehard, I know all the houses and all that stuff. I don't know all the houses like that. All I know is that the House Harrenhal is one of the most important houses in the Riverlands. And I think if Rhaenyra actually just straight up just married Harwin Strong, it would have just worked out great for her, because because no one would have speculated. She would have gotten her boys, she would have secured her line. But if she was going to become queen, then it didn't matter if she had a boy or a girl, because like it would be kind of hypocritical to have a queen, but then she makes the next son the king instead of whoever's the oldest, which I don't think she would have done. Anyway, Rhaenyra should have just bit the bullet and got married. Married anybody. I think she really liked Harwin. It was just she didn't really know him that well at the time. Like, she got to know him better after she got married. But if she just bit the bullet and just found someone to marry, she wouldn't have been going through this. And then I think that's it. I think those are the only ways to stop the Dance of the Dragons from happening. Anything else, it would have gone down similarly. Like, I know, like, one way would have been her and Alicent, if Lucerys got punished for taking out Aemon's eye, I think Alicent wouldn't have been so gung-ho on trying to, like, get Rhaenyra out of not being queen. But then again, there's a lot of things Rhaenyra should have done differently. And I might go into a separate thing about all the things Rhaenyra should have done in order to secure her line. And literally the reason why she's having so many issues is because she refused to, like, not be selfish. Because let's be honest, Rhaenyra is kind of selfish. Not kind of. She is selfish. She learns to be less selfish the older she gets, but she is pretty selfish in the first season, especially. So yeah, but that's it. That's all the ways I figured that Rhaenyra could have became queen or could have stopped the Dance of the Dragons from happening. Comment down below if you have any other ideas, because I would love to hear them, and I'll even make another follow-up video about not fan, I don't have fans, but commenters' suggestions about how Rhaenyra could have secured the throne, or how the Dance of the Dragons could have been avoided. Okay, well, that's all I have to say today. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.